Chapter 129, Crowd Manipulation. Welcome to the re-establishment celebration of the Uzumaki clan. I don't want to bore you with a long speech, so I will make it short. From today on, my Uzumaki clan will become part of Konoha, and we are, naturally, happy to become part of the strongest hidden village and will contribute to Konoha as best as we can to strengthen it even further. Oi, aren't you laying it on a little too thick? Considering these retards thought that Naruto and I are your reincarnations because they heard a rumor about it, I don't think so. Look at how smug most of them look right now. Even some of the spectators that had a lot of animosity towards me have changed their opinion. I am truly happy that my clan became part of Konoha and hope. Happy? Aren't you the one that has always insulted us? This caused a small uproar in the crowd as many people remembered how Yuna usually acted in front of them. Yuna could only shake her head when she saw how easily these people switched their opinions. Weak and fickle minds. The longer this fast goes, the more of my time I waste with these imbeciles. Danzo should have just skipped the nonsense with his dogs that only know how to bark and directly start with the suicide bombers. Despite cursing the people in front of her in her mind, Yuna still had a patient smile on her face as she answered the question. Aren't you twisting around cause and effect a little? Someone spread some nonsensical rumors that Naruto and I are the QB somehow, and from then on a lot of people started insulting us. You don't expect me to treat people that are constantly insulting me with courtesy, right? As soon as Yuna finished that sentence, another person started speaking. Aren't the rumors true? I saw you during the Chunin exam, and I might not be a shinobi, but even I could see that malicious-looking red chakra. Yuna almost started cursing when she heard what the next person said. What is wrong with these people? Do they only have their brain to increase the mass of their head and give stronger headbutts? Naruto and I are not the reincarnations of the Kyuubi, we simply have it sealed inside us. It is called being a Jinchuriki, and every major village has at least one of those. In case you are claiming that I'm lying, the person responsible for creating the first Jinchuriki was Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage. This silenced the crowd. Hashirama Senju was, after all, a legendary hero for the people of Konoha. They didn't believe that someone would dare to lie about him, so they believed Yuna. Very, very few would actually research if what Yuna said was actually true, but that was more than enough to start spreading the truth. Seeing the crowd being silent, Yuna expected the suicide bombers to make their move, which Yuna found a little disappointing. There was still a little more information she wanted to spread by countering arguments. Simply revealing the information would have a much smaller impact after all. Luckily for her, someone actually managed to see the hole in Yuna's previous answer and attacked it. Even if first Hokage-sama was the one who created something like you, that doesn't mean you are not a monster. Haha, that sucker actually walked right into it, huh? Oh well, may he rest in peace. An astonished look appeared on Yuna's face, which caused the person who said that argument to give her a smug look. Yuna's next sentence, however, made that smug look disappear rather quickly. To think a citizen of Konoha would dare to insult not only the first but even the third and fourth Hokage like that, I'm shocked. The first Hokage sealed the Kyuubi inside his wife, Mido Senju, who was known as Mido Uzumaki before her marriage and, by the way, is something like my grand-aunt. Are you actually claiming that the first Hokage turned his wife into a monster? The moment Yuna finished that sentence, a lot of people started to glare at the person who was previously speaking. The more people were glaring at him, the smaller he seemed to become, but unfortunately for him, Yuna wasn't done yet. Not only that, the third Hokage sealed the Kyuubi inside Kushino Uzumaki, my mother, who was the wife of his grand disciple. Wouldn't turning the wife of his beloved grand disciple into a monster be something incredibly cruel? Would our beloved Hokage really do something like that? The glares intensified even further when people heard that, after all, Hashirama might be a legendary person, but no one in the current crowd knew much about him. Hiruzen, however, was a completely different case. Konoha's citizens loved him. Yuna, meanwhile, continued her ruthless assassination of random goon number 736. Although all of these things sound pretty horrible, the person who ended up doing the worst crimes, if Jinchuriki were really monsters, would be, without a doubt, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, and my father. He, after all, sealed the Kyuubi directly into his two children. If having a Bishu sealed inside you was such a bad thing, wouldn't that make our beloved fourth Hokage a huge pile of trash? That was disgusting. How can you spout all that nonsense without even twitching? Haha, I was the goddess of shamelessness, as such, this is an easy feat for me. I don't even know whether that is the truth or if you are joking anymore. Gah ha ha ha. Just when the crowd was about to tear the man who kept the argument going into shreds, Danzo's suicide bombers finally started to make their move. The 10 people simultaneously tore away their overcoats and revealed that there were explosive tags plastered all over their bodies. The Uzumaki clan will take revenge for Konoha's betrayal, X10. Yuna could feel her face twitch a little when she saw those 10 puppets trying to pretend to have any passion for what they were doing. Although the words alone sounded very passionate, considering there were no emotions behind them and the words weren't even spoken especially loud, the whole act looked a little pathetic. Despite that, when people saw the massive number of explosive seals, they screamed in terror and started to run around like headless chickens. Considering almost everyone present was a civilian, Yuna wasn't too surprised that a panic broke out instantly when something unexpected happened. Before anyone could get trampled to death, Yuna's presence increased and put quite a bit of pressure on the people present. Do not panic. Although those 3 words were spoken rather casually, the crowd calmed down instantly. Although the people in the crowd didn't understand why Yuna's words calmed them down instantly. After everyone calmed down, they looked around and noticed that the 10 people who had explosive tags plastered all over their bodies were now laying on the ground unconsciously while a clone of Yuna stood next to every single one of them with an indifferent expression on their faces. The Yuna that wasn't standing next to one of the unconscious people chuckled a little. Although the chuckling appeared to be very silent, the whole crowd could hear it and it set shivers through their spines. Hee hee, look what we have here. I hope you people still remember how I said that someone was spreading weird rumors about Naruto and me inside Konoha. Isn't it interesting? I claimed that someone was acting against us which, let's be honest here, could as well be the annoyed rambling of a child, and not even 10 minutes later, a bunch of people appeared that have a lot of resemblance to the people of my Uzumaki clan and tried to randomly kill people at this gathering. Hee, it is almost like someone wants my Uzumaki clan to be seen as Konoha's enemy. A lot of people realized what was going on when Yuna said that. There has always been a lot of rumors spreading around the twins in Konoha. Rumors of how violent they were and how they could go on rampage at any time, but despite hearing a lot of those rumors, no one had actually seen something like this happen. Before the audience could come up with any wrong conclusions, Yuna decided to intervene. I will be honest with you people. No, you won't. I don't know who is targeting me, my little brother, and my Uzumaki clan like this. Yes, you do. But I think that person is obviously an enemy of Konoha. Well, that person thinks he isn't. Don't get tricked by lies. Unless they are said by you. Think properly about the so-called rumors you hear about my Uzumaki clan and don't believe them blindly. Unless you are the one to spread them. Moments later, one of the ANBU guards appeared next to Yuna and bowed to her. Yuna Uzumaki-sama, we watched what has happened and would like to escort these 10 people, who clearly wanted to harm the citizens of Konoha, into Konoha's T&I department to find out their motives. Yuna nodded in approval of the ANBU's timing. If he didn't appear right now, some people might dismiss the incident as a farce to make the Uzumaki clan look better, but now that Konoha's ANBU are involved, that is no longer possible. Haha, of course. The Uzumaki clan will, naturally, cooperate with your investigations, but I do hope that we could hear about the results of the interrogation. After all, my clan was the target of this incident. The ANBU agent only nodded his head and then disappeared with the 10 bombers in tow. Yuna scanned the crowd and couldn't help but chuckle when she noticed that a lot of people now held a positive opinion of her, simply because she agreed to have Konoha's ANBU investigate the case. Weak and fickle minds, just like I previously said. Show them something positive and they are instantly on your side. Although it was slightly amusing to trick them, it was a little too easy for my taste. Yuna Uzumaki, goddess of trickery. Nah, that was actually someone else. Chapter 130, Before the Mission. After the incident was over, the remainder of the gathering stayed peaceful. Almost every member of the Uzumaki clan had already befriended a few citizens from Konoha, so even after Yuna finished her speech, quite a few people stayed behind and started to mingle with the Uzumaki clan. Yuna, however, had no interest in that and was already walking home, while Akane Uzumaki was walking slightly behind her. She was currently staring at Yuna in disbelief due to what happened during the gathering. Why, Yuna-sama, did you know something like this would happen? Yuna shrugged her shoulders and then shook her head. I wasn't expecting that we would actually have people in our audience that would try to detonate themselves. Seems like our opponent is finally losing his calm head. Well, he has probably been doing that for a while now, but I guess the Chunin exam was the final blow. Isn't this dangerous? Won't the individual members of the Uzumaki clan be in danger? No, that is very unlikely. There is already a fire burning under him, and I very much doubt he is willing to take any more risks. Considering I prevented his plans from bearing fruit yet again, I think he will only go after me and maybe the few people I am close to. Of course, I already devised some countermeasures in case he really does that. The two walked some more, and Yuna noticed that Akane clearly wanted to ask something else, but didn't know whether it was appropriate or not. When Yuna saw this, she could only roll her eyes at her. Spit it out already. What is the problem? This or why is that person so fixated on you, Yuna-sama? Even if he were to somehow kill you, I don't think that would help him at this point in time. It is already too late for that. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle when she heard that. That is indeed the case, and the answer to this question is rather simple. It's an obsession. I bested him in his own game. I went from someone he considered to be his pawn to his greatest enemy simply by crushing all his gains. He thinks that I will continue to stand in his way and that he has to get rid of me no matter what, to succeed in whatever F***ed-up plan he has in his mind. Another important point is that I'm currently the only one who considers him an enemy and is aware of his scheming. That person has always acted from the shadows, so very few people are actually aware of him and know what he has done. I, however, am completely different. I confronted him, exposed his lies, and then he failed to silence me. He wants me dead, and, coincidentally, my thoughts about him are the same. Won't he be imprisoned or something due to that happened today? Of course not. After all, one of my clones is currently on its way to the Hokage office to make sure nothing is done about that person. He is my prey and I won't let anybody get in my way. Akane gave Yuna a weird-out look for a moment and then just shrugged her shoulders. She didn't really see the point in hunting someone down on your own, but wouldn't bother arguing about it with Yuna. What about you and the rest of your family, Yuna-sama? When will you be moving into the new Uzumaki complex? Yuna thought about that for a while and then gave her answer. I would like to get our stuff into the new compound before Naruto and I have to leave for our mission. The seals around the compound are already set up, so it is much safer if we move in there as fast as possible. I understand, Yuna-sama. I will arrange everything so you can change homes as soon as possible. Yuna nodded her head in acknowledgement, pondered for a moment, and then tossed a bracelet towards Akane. This has the seal of the Flying Thunder God engraved into it. You will be one of the main representatives for the Uzumaki clan from now on, so some people might get some funny ideas. If something happens to you, just inject your chakra into it and it will arrive as soon as possible. Thank you, Yuna-sama. Akane gave Yuna a deep bow, which Yuna only waved away. Don't worry about it. Yes, Yuna-sama. Have you started digging your claws into older women now? Yuna chuckled a little when she heard that. After all, if someone were to consider her past life, she would be older than every single member of the Uzumaki clan combined. Not really. She isn't my type. Her personality is too strict and rigid. Eager workers like her should be treasured, though. It is rare to find someone passionate about a job and good at it at the same time. It was a few days after the Uzumaki clan gathering and there was still a lot of people who were talking about it. Especially about the information Yuna revealed about previous Hokage and Jinchuriki. Almost no one knew that the first and fourth Hokage's wives were Jinchuriki, and it caused quite a stir. Especially when it came to light that Yuna and Naruto held the same role. The hostility a lot of people had towards them vanished overnight, with quite a few people even shamelessly proclaiming that they were supportive of the twins. Yuna couldn't care less about these people, while Naruto was at least slightly happy that people were no longer glaring at him. Truth be told, however, there is something that he was even happier about. That was being able to live inside the Uzumaki compound and be surrounded by a huge family all the time. No matter where he went inside the Uzumaki compound, people would happily greet him with warm smiles on their faces. At first, he was a bit weirded out because people kept calling him Prince Naruto, but Naruto at least managed to negotiate it down to Naruto-sama by now. He hoped he could get it down to just Naruto, but wasn't confident about that. Despite being slightly uncomfortable due to how people called him, he spent every time smiling from ear to ear, while his eyes shone with excitement. This, in return, made the people of the Uzumaki clan like him even more and made their greeting even more enthusiastic. He was almost unwilling to leave the clan compound for his mission with Yuna and Jiraiya, but at the end of the day, his sense of duty pushed through. Thus, he was currently standing in front of Konoha's gates together with Yuna and was waiting for Jiraiya to arrive. Yuna, on the other hand, didn't care too much about the happy greetings of the Uzumaki clan members. She would, of course, still greet them back with a calm smile, but her reaction was much more subdued than Naruto's. But, just like Naruto, she made them drop the princess part and go with Sama instead. Most Uzumaki clan members saw Yuna's speech, so they weren't surprised about how she acted and accepted it without a problem. They might be a rather brash clan, but even they realized that it would be better for their leader to have a calm personality. Seeing that even Akane Uzumaki, the person most people expected to lead the clan, simply due to her age and demeanor had no problem accepting Yuna as the leader, no one had any complaints about Yuna taking over the role of the clan's matriarch. Yuna could already feel Jiraiya approach and couldn't help but smirk a little. I have a good feeling about this. I think this mission should be a lot of fun. In other words, yet again, something outrageous will happen. Haha, probably. Chapter 131, Quarrel Before the Mission. Today, Yuna, Naruto, and Jiraiya would start their search for Tsunade. Hinata, naturally, pouted angrily at Yuna when she heard that she wouldn't be part of the group, but there was nothing she could do about that. Strictly speaking, Yuna telling her about the mission wasn't even allowed, since it is supposed to be a secret mission, but Yuna didn't really care about that. Yuna and Naruto were already at Konoha's gate and were waiting for Jiraiya to make an appearance. "Ne-san, we are looking for Tsunade, right? I tried to find some information about her, but pretty much all I got is an old picture of her and that she is a very skilled medic nen." Yuna chuckled a little when she heard that. "I am not surprised you didn't find out much about her considering her current condition. I couldn't get too much information about what exactly happened either, but she apparently lost someone close to her a few years ago and started to drink heavily after that. Additionally, she seems to be addicted to gambling and is currently in the process of gambling away everything that the Senju clan still possesses. Naruto widened his eyes when he heard that, while the image he had of Konoha Sannin crumbled even further. A pervert, a gambling drunkard, and whatever Orochimaru is. Not exactly the powerful image the Sannin are supposed to project. After a few more minutes of waiting, Jiraiya arrived at their meeting point. A wide grin appeared on his face when he saw Yuna and Naruto. Hee, I heard you two are big shots now. Do you want me to call you with Sama from now on? Yuna lifted her head as an arrogant sneer appeared on her face. It is Princess Uzumaki for you, peasant. Jiraiya was completely gobsmacked when Yuna suddenly shifted personality to an arrogant noble, and before he could properly understand the situation, Naruto chimed in as well. That's right, who do you think you are to be speaking to the princess this casually? A second Naruto appeared behind Yuna and started speaking as well. What are you doing, peasant? Quickly kowtow to the princess and beg for forgiveness. Jiraiya's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when Naruto started acting in a similar manner to Yuna. He had no idea how to deal with the current situation. Luckily for him, Yuna decided that she didn't want to make him suffer for too long. She chuckled a little and nodded her head in approval. Hee, not bad. Not bad at all. No wonder young masters enjoy acting like that. I don't know about that, Nei-san. For some reason, I feel a little dirty. Yeah, don't worry about that. The more Shamil *** used to it you are, the less worried you will be about that feeling. When Yuna finished her explanation, Jiraiya was finally able to comprehend what was going on. You damn brats tricked me. Haha, what are you talking about? Now that Naruto is someone of high status, I need to teach him how to act in public. Who the hell acts like that in PU? The further Jiraiya spoke his sentence, the less confident he became in what he wanted to say, until he finally just stopped speaking while remembering a few people he encountered in the past. A few moments later, he snapped back to reality and glared at Yuna. Don't teach Naruto weird stuff. A sad smile appeared on Naruto's face. He could only shake his head when he heard that. It's too late for that, old pervert. Way, too late. Jiraiya was a little dumbfounded when Naruto was suddenly looking all sad and couldn't help but wonder what he meant. He grew even more confused when Naruto's sad smile vanished and was instead replaced with a goofy grin. Before he could ask what he meant by that, he noticed something else. Don't call me an old pervert. Naruto seemed to be confused by that for a moment when he realized what Jiraiya meant. Ah, sorry about that. I totally forgot that Nei-san told me about it. I'll try to call you properly from now on, young pervert. Jiraiya's glare intensified even further. He was constantly switching between glaring at Yuna and Naruto, but neither of them seemed to be bothered by it in the slightest. Jiraiya could only sigh in defeat before asking the question he really wanted an answer to. What did you mean when you said it is too late for that, Naruto? Naruto could only chuckle wryly before answering. It is weird that you are asking considering you were present during the whole situation a while ago. Jiraiya, however, only looked at Naruto in confusion. What do you mean by whole situation? Naruto couldn't help but look at Jiraiya completely dumbfounded, while even Yuna couldn't help but roll her eyes. I mean the situation on the day right after I met Gamabunta. The one inside my home. Jiraiya thought about it for a moment, and moments later, a perverted chuckle escaped his mouth, while a little bit of blood started flowing out of his nose. Before Jiraiya could say a single word, Naruto appeared in front of him and punched him in the stomach. Stop having weird fantasies about Nei-san. ***, what do you mean by fantasies? She didn't exactly leave anything to the imagination. Naruto gritted his teeth and wanted to argue about that, but he had no clue what he was supposed to say. He decided to just explain what he meant. Whatever, after meeting Gamabunta, we shared some drinks and I got slightly drunk. Naruto could hear Yuna chuckle at this slightly, but didn't say anything about that. And, long story short, I woke up the next morning with 2 girls inside my bed. This was the first time when I noticed that Nasen might have influenced me more than I thought she had. Jiraiya, meanwhile, could only look at Naruto in disbelief. He expected Naruto to be a genius considering who his parents were, but he never expected Naruto to be that kind of genius. He just wanted to praise Naruto for his achievement when Naruto continued his explanation. Although that was already pretty weird, considering nothing happened, I could still accept the situation, but when I easily convinced both of them to become my girlfriends, I knew something was off. This time, Jiraiya felt like someone had hit him with a sledgehammer. He took a glance at Yuna and noticed that her eyes were filled with pride while she didn't seem to find the situation weird at all. It seems like Yuna has always been rather abnormal, so I didn't find it too shocking that she created a harem somehow, but Naruto is a totally different case. I might even go as far as calling him an innocent young boy if he hadn't just told me that he managed to get himself a harem. Damn, I am so outraged about this. Jiraiya took a deep breath to calm his nerves, but just when he was about to calm down properly, Yuna put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and gave him a motherly smile. Don't worry, Naruto, if 2 isn't enough to satisfy you, Nasan will look for a few more cute girls for you. While Jiraiya immediately had blood flowing out of his nose when he heard that, Naruto's face turned crimson red, and moments later, he felt like 2 powerful killing intents were locking in on him and his face turned white. Nasan, please don't say nonsense like that. 2 is definitely enough. I absolutely don't need more than 2. If Ino and Haku ask, please tell them that I absolutely don't want more than 2 women. Yuna couldn't help but chuckle when she saw Naruto's face turn white in fear. Hee, that might be what Naruto is thinking, but I wonder what Ino and Haku will do when they realize that Naruto has almost unlimited stamina. I am pretty sure that I remember you saying that you didn't want to corrupt Naruto. That must have been your imagination. Seeing Naruto frantically looking around like someone was watching him and Jiraiya furiously scribbling away on a piece of paper while his nose was still leaking blood, Yuna could only shake her head. Well, how about we get this going? We have already wasted quite a bit of time. While Naruto instantly nodded his head and prepared himself to start their journey, Jiraiya took a few more moments to finish writing. I got everything written down. My next book will be even better than the previous ones. Jiraiya noticed that Yuna and Naruto were giving him weird looks, so he straightened his back and started speaking with as much dignity as someone who still had a bit of blood leaking out of his nose could muster. We don't have all day. Let's start the journey already. Let's go, young pervert. Chapter 132, Attack on the Uzumaki Compound. Itachi Uchiha was, yet again, on a mission he would have rather rejected. This time, however, it was not because it went against his morals. Well, that was the case as well, but not the main problem. No, it was because he had a very bad feeling about it. He was currently walking through Konoha with Kasame Hoshigaki by his side, and he had the mission to kidnap Naruto Uzumaki due to the Kyuubi that was sealed inside him. Truth be told, Itachi would have preferred if their target was Yuna Uzumaki instead. Despite her being the stronger target, Itachi felt like if they were to kidnap Naruto, Yuna would hunt them down to the depth of hell, while if they tried to kidnap Yuna, she would only fight back and wouldn't chase them too ferociously. When Itachi first met Yuna all those years ago, he didn't think too much about the encounter. Just a sister that wants to protect her brother, but after he managed to regain his bearing from what he has done on that day, he realized what actually happened. She had played him like a fiddle and coaxed top-secret information out of him without him even noticing it at first. No, he noticed it, but for some reason didn't think it was a big deal at that time. The supposed great genius of the Uchiha clan was toyed with like a child by a little girl that just started the Shinobi Academy. In the aftermath, Itachi felt terrified when he thought about that last encounter with Yuna. The way she easily broke his genjutsu and then quickly diverted the attention away from it. The way every single one of her movements seemed to displace Inseri while at the same time manipulating Itachi's emotions to make him feel sympathetic for the twins. And, probably, the worst part, the way her eyes seemed to constantly analyze him without him even noticing it. Luckily, he had his Sharingan activated during the whole encounter, otherwise, he wouldn't have even noticed that part after analyzing the whole encounter multiple times. Currently, Itachi and Kasame were standing in front of the newly established Uzumaki compound. While Kasame was only lazily looking around, Itachi had his Sharingan activated and was trying to analyze the almost invisible blue ceiling barrier that covered the whole compound. After about half an hour, Itachi shook his head. This is too complex to analyze on the go. I would need multiple days to understand how to prevent it from detecting us. A smirk appeared on Kasame's face when he heard that. Hee, then I guess we will just have to break in by force. Without another word, Kasame pulled out his sword and slashed at the barrier. Itachi's eyes widened when he saw that. He wanted to stop him, but it was already too late. Kasame's sword smashed into the barrier and easily tore it to shreds. Itachi was shocked by how easily the barrier was destroyed, while Kasame had a smug look on his face. See? Easy. There is nothing brute force can't solve. Itachi didn't think it would be this easy, but no matter where he looked, he couldn't find any indication that this was a trap or that there were more seals hidden somewhere. Unlike Kasame, who boldly strode forwards, Itachi took every step very cautiously. Unfortunately for him, the moment he passed the boundary of the previous barrier, a crimson-red barrier appeared in its place while a second one appeared in front of them, trapping them between the two barriers. Kasame sneered in disdain when he saw that and slashed out yet again to tear one of the barriers to shreds. This time, however, only a small area of the barrier was reduced in thickness, which was regenerated within a short moment. Itachi immediately understood what was going on. The barriers are leeching our chakra and using it to repair themselves. We should retreat for now. This is more complicated than we thought it would be. Kasame reluctantly nodded his head and prepared himself to whittle down one of the barriers when flames were shot at him from almost everywhere. Kasame slashed out his sword to get rid of them, but to his surprise, only about half of the flames were drained of their chakra by his sword, while the remaining half didn't seem to be affected at all. Kasame's eyes widened in surprise and he quickly pumped chakra into his legs to dodge the flames. Although he managed to dodge most of them, his clothes were still singed in a few places. While Kasame was confused about why his sword only absorbed half of the flames, Itachi quickly explained what happened. Not all of the flames were created through chakra. Some of them were normal fire, that is why your sword couldn't absorb them. Itachi noticed that the seals surrounding them were getting more and more active, which was probably due to more and more Uzumaki clan members supplying it with chakra. Or that was at least what Itachi suspected to be happening right now. He quickly moved to the side and dodged a cluster of earth spikes that were flying at him, while Kasame did the same to a bunch of air blades. Itachi could only shake his head when he realized that the situation was getting worse by the minute. Although he didn't want to do it, he didn't see any other way to get out of here quickly. He closed his right eye for a moment and when he reopened it, his three-tomo Sharingan was gone and was instead replaced with a pinwheel-looking Mangekyou Sharingan. Amaterasu. Blood started to flow out of his right eye and moments later, black flames appeared on the barrier that was hindering them from running away. Although it took a moment, the black flames opened an exit for Itachi and Kasame. Let's get out of here. The Uzumaki compound is not a place we can take on by ourselves. Although Kasame wasn't happy at all, he still retreated without complaint. They weren't here to wage war against Konoha, after all. Meanwhile, deep in the Uzumaki compound, 10 people were sitting in a circle and were injecting chakra into a small crystal ball in front of them, while an additional 2 people were standing nearby and watching the situation on the outside through multiple monitors. One of them was Zabuza Momocha, who, truth be told, had no idea why he was allowed to be this deep inside the Uzumaki compound. He could only guess that it had something to do with him being something like a father figure to Haku. Zabuza could only marvel at what has just happened. Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki weren't exactly unknown people. If Zabuza were to meet even one of them, he would die, no questions asked. And yet, 10 Uzumaki clan members who could barely defeat a Chunin in a one-on-one fight repelled them. How did Zabuza know that they could barely defeat a Chunin? Because he has been training them for the past few weeks. Well, even if they can barely fight a Chunin, their chakra reserve is certainly on another level. Despite most of them having very little training in fighting, every single one of them could at least match a weak Jonin in chakra volume. Even Zabuza couldn't help but be slightly jealous of such a ridiculous advantage. Carrying their ridiculous chakra, with their almost endless life force, could make them a devastatingly powerful clan, but most Uzumaki have very little interest in stuff like that. Well, Zabuza couldn't deny that he has become rather fond of the Uzumaki clan in the few weeks that he was here, and the fact that they had no interest in all of these power gains between clans and villages certainly was something positive in Zabuza's eyes. Now that they have proven that they could, despite their rather pacifistic attitude, repel such a powerful foe, Zabuza couldn't help but look forward to what would happen in the future. The other person who was in the room was Masato Uzumaki. He had short spiky hair that was, like with every Uzumaki, red in color, but unlike most Uzumaki, he had a stern face and gave off an aura of seriousness. He was the only Jonin-level Uzumaki that immigrated to Konoha and was kept a secret for now. The only ones who knew about him were Hiruzen Tsurutobi and Shikaku Nara. Masato was assigned as something like a chief of security for the Uzumaki clan and was currently busy eyeing the monitors in the room like a hawk. Only when Itachi and Kasame didn't return after waiting for 10 minutes did he nod his head in satisfaction. Well done, we repelled the invaders. Half of you may leave for now, while the remaining 5 stay on monitoring duty. If nothing else happens today, we will return to the normal schedule tomorrow. Yes. After he finished giving out his commands, he turned towards Zabuza. I need to write a report about what happened here and need someone to deliver it to Hokage-sama without anybody noticing. Are you up for the job? Zabuza only shrugged his shoulders and nodded his head. Sure, I already noticed that you guys suck at stealth, so I will do it. Masato gave him a stern nod and left the room together with Zabuza. As soon as they left the room, Masato's facade shattered. Ha ha ha, that went well, you know. Yunosama gave me some good alcohol, so let's drink on the victory of the Uzumaki clan, you know. Zabuza could only shake his head and chuckle a little. This was Masato's real personality. As soon as none of his subordinates could see him, his personality turns into the usual Uzumaki personality, but instead of ramen, he seems to be fond of alcohol. Sure, but you should write the letter to the Hokage first. Being drunk isn't good when you want to move stealthily, after all. Haha, no problem. I'll have it done in a jiffy, you know. Zabuza couldn't help but chuckle again. He was really wondering how the Uzumaki clan will develop in the future. He couldn't help but look forward to it. Chapter 133, Yuna vs Sexy Jutsu. Sasuke Uchiha was currently laying on a bed inside Konoha's hospital and wasn't in a good mood at all. In his head, he had already cursed Yuna over 100 times, and it was only a matter of time before that counter reached the 4th digit. He made that bet with Yuna rather casually and wasn't thinking too much about the consequences, but now he truly regretted it. The seal she used on him somehow forced him to stay hinged into a woman. He has been transformed for almost a week without anyone being capable of figuring out how to remove the seal. He even looked at it with his Sharingan, which only earned him a headache. The only remaining hope he has is that the seal will somehow stop working after the month is over. That was, after all, part of the bet. If that failed as well, his only option was to force Yuna to remove it. When he thought about that, Sasuke couldn't help himself but get even angrier. There was no way for him to force Yuna to do anything after all. Remembering how easily she defeated him, he could only curse his own weakness. He knew that Yuna was strong, but he didn't expect it to be to such a ridiculous degree. Although being defeated that easily already gave his pride quite the big hit, when he heard what happened after he lost consciousness, Sasuke's pride was pretty much shattered into dust. When he first woke up after his fight against Yuna, the first thing he did was ask about the outcome of the tournament, and after the nurse he asked to tell the story finished the whole thing, Sasuke was absolutely certain that she was lying to him. Yuna had an ice-style Kikei Genkai that could freeze the whole arena. Yuna, Naruto, and Hinata had a 2-on-1 battle that looked like 3 high-level jonin were clashing against each other. Hinata, someone with a rather similar background to himself, could actually participate in a battle where Yuna and Naruto were using the Kyuubi's chakra. Yuna and Naruto were children of the 4th Hokage and members of the royal Uzumaki bloodline. The Uzumaki clan will be re-established inside Konoha. Yuna had another Kikei Genkai in the form of chains. Naruto summoned a gigantic toad and clashed head-on against the Ichibi, and finally, Yuna fought and defeated the 1st Hokage and consequently saved the 3rd. What was Sasuke even supposed to think about that? Each new part of the story was more ridiculous than the previous one. Following that, Yuna even became a jonin, which almost beat Itachi's time in becoming one. Sasuke, meanwhile, was still a mere genin and was lying on a hospital bed while being transformed into a woman. This isn't right. Weren't the Uchiha supposed to be the strongest? Let's not talk about Yuna. I am even weaker than Hinata, who, unlike Yuna and Naruto, doesn't have an endless supply of chakra sealed inside her. How is this possible? There must be something wrong. There is something I don't understand. What is it that I am missing? While Sasuke was sinking deeper and deeper into his contemplations, he heard a loud voice echoing through the hospital. Kakashi, my rival, don't worry, I will get you treated as soon as possible. Following that was some murmuring that Sasuke couldn't understand before the previous voice yet again echoed through the hospital. Ha ha ha, there is no way I will allow you to walk yourself when you are wounded like this. Sasuke's eyes widened when he heard that. Kakashi-sensei is wounded. I need to see what is going on. A few moments later, Sasuke entered a hospital room that had quite a few jonin inside it who all looked like they just went through a fight. I heard Kakashi-sensei is wounded, what happened? Everyone looked at Sasuke in surprise, and moments later every single one of them glared at the owner of the loud voice, Might Guy, who could only muster an awkward chuckle. Before Sasuke could ask any question, Kakashi started speaking. Well, don't worry about that, Sasuke. I had to fight someone rather powerful during a mission and had to overuse my Sharingan. It's just the usual chakra exhaustion. No need to worry. Before Kakashi could finish speaking, the door burst open and another shinobi walked inside. Is the story that Itachi has appeared in Konoha really true? Is he really chasing Yuna and Naruto? This time, the newly arrived shinobi received glares from everyone including Guy. Although the shinobi didn't understand the situation at first, when he noticed Sasuke, his face paled. He wanted to explain himself, but it was already too late and Sasuke was already out of the door with hatred oozing out of his eyes. Itachi is here. I can finally kill him. I lived all my life hating him, and now I can finally use all that hatred to kill him. Yuna, Naruto, and Jiraiya, meanwhile, were traveling rather leisurely. Although Hiruzen wanted Tsunade to become the next Hokage, there really was no need to hurry, so the trio walking normally while chatting with each other. While chatting about random nonsense, Jiraiya remembered that he wanted to ask Naruto about something that happened during the Chunin exam. Naruto, although I didn't see it myself, I heard that you used something in the fight against Yuna that looked a lot like a technique your father invented, the Rasengan. Naruto nodded his head when he heard that. He lifted up his right hand and moments later a Rasengan appeared above Naruto's hand. Jiraiya could only nod in approval when he saw how easily Naruto created it. Considering that the Rasengan is considered as the pinnacle of shape transformation, it was incredibly impressive that Naruto could use it at such a young age. Jiraiya couldn't help but glance at Yuna, who only shrugged her shoulders and created her own Rasengan. Ne-san and I managed to get our hands on quite a few of Father's knights. That is where we found information about the Rasengan and how he planned to evolve the Jutsu. Jiraiya was surprised that the twins managed to find something like that. The only place where stuff like that might be found is Minato's old house, but there are quite a few security seals. They probably sneaked in, huh? Oh well, it should be theirs anyway, so it is fine. Could you tell me how exactly the newly developed Rasengan works? If you want to keep it a secret, it is, naturally, fine as well. I'm just a little curious if you managed to inject elemental chakra into it like Minato planned to, or if you took another path. Considering the whole thing exploded into deadly torrents of water, I assume you managed to do it somehow? I don't mind telling you, it is, after all, not easily copied. The first version of the elemental-infused Rasengan became somewhat of a failure. Although it was indeed very powerful, it was actually too powerful. When smashing it into an enemy, it would not only hurt my enemy but myself as well. I concluded that I had to either reduce the strength, which I was not willing to do, or actually turn it into a projectile. A normal Rasengan is weak enough for me to throw it without it breaking instantly, but the moment I infuse it with my wind chakra, that becomes pretty much impose. Wait. You can throw a normal Rasengan? Naruto looked at him weirdly and nodded his head. A Rasengan formed in his hands and then he threw it like a baseball, causing it to smash into a tree, making the tree collapse. While Jiraiya's jaw almost hit the ground, Naruto casually proceeded with his explanation. Anyway, my chakra control is simply not good enough to throw the real deal. Considering one of the chakra exercises Ne-san taught me is rather similar to throwing a normal Rasengan, that still works out fine, but everything that has more power in it is impossible to be thrown for now. Thus, Hinata and I came up with a combination that works. I provide the chakra, while she provides the elemental transformation and even adds in her nature energy to stabilize it even further. Like that, we created something that could be used in combat without any major drawbacks. We call it water-style torrential Rasengan. Jiraiya couldn't help but be amazed by that. Luckily, Hiruzen had already told him that Hinata and Anko could, for some unknown reason, use natural energy, or he might have been shocked to death by the whole explanation. Truly fascinating. To think that natural energy was the answer that Minato was looking for while developing his jutsu. I am looking forward to all the jutsu you will create in the future. This caused a sly smile to appear on Naruto's face as he looked at Jiraiya with mischief in his eyes. Hee, there is actually another jutsu I developed. Are you interested in seeing it? Although Jiraiya felt like this was a trap, he couldn't help but be curious anyway. Even Yuna couldn't help but be slightly curious. She had, after all, heard nothing about this new jutsu Naruto developed. Considering how Naruto was currently smiling, she was pretty sure it was a prank jutsu, but she didn't mind at all. Hee, then you better prepare yourselves. Here comes my super secret jutsu. Ultimate harem sexy jutsu. The whole group was surrounded by smoke, and as soon as the smoke was lifted, naked busty women were surrounding Yuna and Jiraiya. Blood immediately started to flow out of Jiraiya's nose like a river, and he gave Naruto a thumbs up. Hee, not bad at all. What a powerful jutsu. Yuna, however, didn't react at all. She simply stood still, while clenching and unclenching her fist, while her chakra slowly started to ooze out of her. The transformed Narutos took a step back on instinct. No way. Ne-san is a pervert, right? So, this should work on her. Moments later, Yuna's chakra exploded out as she pointed her finger at one of the Narutos. Unacceptable. Yuna disappeared, and moments later, she slapped the butt of the transformed Naruto she was pointing at, causing that Naruto clone to dispel. That butt didn't have the right musculature. She disappeared again and pinched a transformed Naruto in the waist. Not soft enough for a woman. She disappeared again. Not soft enough for Ron. Body form of feels unnatural, just plain wrong. A few moments later, an exhausted Naruto was sprawled on the ground, while Yuna stood above him with her hands crossed in front of her body. You better put more effort into that if you want my approval. Yes, Nei-san. A sly smile appeared on Yuna's face. How about you ask Ino and Haku for help? They should be more than willing. Yes, Ne. Naruto's face blushed crimson red, but instead of answering, he simply closed his eyes and didn't say anything. Haha, that was a fun little event. How about we restart our journey? Yuna glanced at Jiraiya and noticed that he had actually fainted while massive amounts of blood were flooding out of his nose. What the hell is his problem? Really? The goddess of perversion as well. Just how many titles did you hold? Ha ha ha, although I have no idea what you are talking about, praise me more. Chapter 134, Gathering Information, maybe. It took Yuna, Naruto, and Jiraiya a few more minutes to reach their first destination, a small village that was simply called Tria Village. There is nothing remarkable about it and will only be used as a resting spot by the trio. As soon as they entered the village, Jiraiya started to ogle women as a perverted smile appeared on his face. I will do some research and see if I can get some information about our target. Without another word, Jiraiya vanished into the crowd under the judging gazes of Yuna and Naruto. Yuna could only shake her head and started to speak. Well, I'm not sure how reliable he is, so I guess I will try to collect some information as well. What do you want to do, Naruto? Naruto only disinterestedly shrugged his shoulders. You know that I don't like stuff like that, so I guess I will be looking for a hotel to spend the night in. Yuna nodded her head in acknowledgement, and moments later, she had transformed into a mature beauty that looked to be in her late 20s. See you later, Naruto. Similar to Yuna, Naruto also used a transformation to make himself look older and nodded his head towards Yuna. CYA. Seeing Yuna disappear into the crowd just like Jiraiya, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle a little. He didn't know what she wanted to do but was pretty sure that she wouldn't conventionally gather information either. Oh well, it's Nei-san, so it should be fine. It has been about an hour since the trio arrived in Tria Village and Jiraiya was currently enjoying himself. He was walking down the main road of the village, with two beauties clinging to him and were fighting for his attention. Jiraiya paused for a moment and wondered when he picked up the second one but decided not to think about it too deeply. The more beauties the better. A little bit later, Jiraiya entered another bar to have some more fun, but when he did he almost face-planted into the ground due to what he saw. A single mature woman sat at a table that was almost exclusively filled with thuggish-looking men. As for her looks, she looked pretty much like Yuna, but about 15 years older. She was currently in a glaring contest with one of the men, while the remaining table was completely silent. Moments later, both of them lifted their glasses and started chugging their contents like crazy. Moments later, the woman, the transformed Yuna, smacked her empty glass on the table and let loose a loud burp that echoed through the whole bar. Ha ha ha, another victory. Who else dares to challenge me? Ha ha Dan, she won again. What the hell? How the hell can she drink that fast? I'm sure she is especially good at swallowing smack asterisk. Yuna casually punched the last person in the stomach before he could finish speaking and started laughing again. Ha ha ha. You sure talk big for someone who didn't even finish half his glass before I was done with mine. Loud laughter broke out as the people at Yuna's table kept bantering with each other. Jiraiya, meanwhile, needed significant amounts of willpower to look away from Yuna's table. He had no idea how she did it, but it seems Yuna had somehow befriended the local thugs. Juratilda, what are you doing? Let's sit down already. Hearing one of the women he was currently hugging speaking to him, he managed to wake up from his contemplations and nodded his head. Haha, sorry. I thought I just saw someone I know, but that must have been my imagination. Come, let's sit down. Despite happily talking with the two women beside him, Jiraiya couldn't help but put some attention on the table Yuna was currently occupying. After Yuna won another chugging contest, one of the thugs asked a question that made Jiraiya sweat a little. Haha Dan, how can you drink this fast? Are you a shinobi and using one of those jutsu things? The atmosphere immediately turned a little colder when that question was asked. Even in the land of fire, there were quite a lot of people that would rather have no contact with shinobi at all. A mysterious smile appeared on Yuna's face. She looked left and right and then slightly moved forward, causing the other people at the table to automatically do the same. Hee, that's right. Do you want to see my most powerful jutsu? The thugs around the table widened their eyes when Yuna said that, but couldn't help but be curious about it. They felt that something interesting would happen, so all of them simultaneously nodded their heads. Jiraiya, meanwhile, had not the slightest clue where Yuna was going with this. No matter how he looked at it, showing these thugs that she was a shinobi would not help her in any way, but even he couldn't help but be morbidly curious about what Yuna is going to do. Yuna started to clumsily form hand seals. Although these thugs had pretty much no idea how jutsus worked, they had at least seen shinobi use hand seals before. After taking almost 10 seconds to form 3 hand seals, Yuna kept her hands in the ram seal and closed her eyes to concentrate. It seems like she was trying to concentrate really hard, as a deep frown was on her face, but a few seconds later, she reopened her eyes. Transformation jutsu. A minuscule proof of smoke appeared, and as soon as the smoke vanished, all the thugs looked at Yuna completely dumbfounded. After using that jutsu, Yuna seemed to be genuinely out of breath while almost nothing had changed about her. The only visible change was that there were now 2 white fox ears on her head. A deafening silence took over, but moments later it was broken by roaring laughter. Ha, what the hell? Gahaha, you actually grew fox ears. Dan, can you teach me how that works? I wanna grow a horse company. Smack asterisk. Can you bastard stop spouting profanities? Another round of roaring laughter echoed inside the bar. One person at Yuna's table, however, had different thoughts. What is the point of growing a bunch of animal ears? I don't want my women to have any animal parts. Yuna seemed to be shocked by that sentence. A sad pout appeared on her face as she lowered her head. Even her fox ears were lowered as she looked at the person who said that like a sad fox. You don't think it is cute? This time, the fox ears were animatedly moving around, causing the person she was looking at to stare at them in fascination. Moments later, he noticed what he was doing and a small blush appeared on his face that was naturally seen by the surrounding people. Gahaha, look at him blush. I don't want my women to have any animal parts, he said, ha. No animal parts, my ass. Wait, doesn't that mean even a woman could grow a horse company? Smack asterisk. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Gahaha, just wait for me to get strong enough to make a tail as well. Then you bastard will have to call me the fox goddess. As my believers, I will even pay for the next round of drinks. Everyone at the table lifted their glasses at the same time and clinked glasses with each other. To the fox goddess. Ha, that's right, worship me. Yet again laughter echoed through the bar, while Jiraiya could no longer understand what was going on. He had not the slightest clue why Yuna was doing all of this. Befriending a bunch of thugs might have been useful, but there is no way a bunch of low-level thugs would have any important information. What happened next, however, truly surprised Jiraiya. Yuna yet again finished her drink and loudly smacked it on the table. She seemed to be quite drunk already, but the other people at her table weren't faring much better either. A deep sigh escaped Yuna's lips, which was noticed by everyone at the table. "Ha ha, what's with that sigh? Is something wrong?" Yuna gave the person who spoke an annoyed glance but started speaking anyway. "Of course, there is a problem. I wanna gamble. What's the point of getting drunk if you can't gamble at the same time? But gambling is forbidden in this town. That's so annoying. Who thought that was a good idea? I wanna gamble tilde, someone bring me another drink. This goddess is thirsty. Gamble tilde." The surrounding thugs were surprised by that. They couldn't help but glance at each other while Yuna was chugging yet another glass. After a moment of silent communication, all of them nodded their heads to each other, and the one sitting closest to Yuna started to whisper to her. "There might be a place where that is possible, but no one is allowed to know about it." Yuna's eyes shone with excitement, and she was just about to exclaim loudly when she quickly blocked her own mouth. "You are not joking, right? Show me the way then. Goga, let's hurry, I wanna get started already. Bill. Someone bring us the bill." Although the people around her were slightly surprised at how easily Yuna agreed to do something illegal, considering the way she acted around them, however, they quickly understood that this certainly wasn't the first time that she spent time in the grayer areas of the law. A few moments later, the whole group left the bar, and while doing so, Yuna winked at Jiraiya, which was noticed by quite a few of the thugs and made them suspicious yet again. Jiraiya, on the other hand, really wanted to curse Yuna. She did all that acting to win the trust of these people, and now she destroyed all of it in an instant. Naturally, one of the thugs immediately asked Yuna what that was about. "Do you know that guy?" Yuna, however, only laughed out loud. "Haha, of course not, but that perverted geezer was looking at my tits pretty much from the moment he entered the bar, so I should at least show him that I noticed, ha ha ha." This caused the whole group to laugh yet again, while Jiraiya couldn't help but blush a little. He wasn't blushing because Yuna claimed that he was looking at her breasts, which he was not. He was blushing because he was constantly staring at her while she was trying to get people's trust, was incredibly suspicious, and might have even caused problems in whatever plan Yuna had. There was, however, something else that truly bothered Jiraiya. As far as he knew, this town did not have an illegal gambling place, so either his informant didn't know about it or he didn't tell Jiraiya about it. Both of these options didn't sound very good to Jiraiya. "Jira tilde, you are all distracted again tilde. Haha, sorry. I will give the two of you my full attention from now on." Chapter 135, Foolish Little Sister. While Yuna was busy becoming part of an illegal gambling den, which, of course, she only did to gather information about Tsunade, Naruto found an appropriate hotel and was currently busy meditating. Just like Yuna always did when she had some time, Naruto was helping Kurama refine the hatred out of his chakra. So, Naruto was currently sitting in his moonscape and slowly exchanging chakra with Kurama. After doing so for a few hours, an annoyed sigh escaped his lips as he took out a piece of paper that had a complex seal drawn on it and prepared himself to drop some blood on it. "Seriously, what is with my luck? My first C-class mission turns into an air raid mission. I have to fight Orochimaru during the Chunin exam, and now two people are approaching that feel even stronger than Orochimaru. Can't I get some peace? Maybe they aren't here because of you. Do you really believe that?" "Not at all. I am 100% sure they are here for you." A few moments later, the two powerful chakra signatures stopped in front of Naruto's door, so Naruto immediately dripped some blood on the paper he was holding and put it away. Considering the distance, only Yuna would get his emergency signal. Naruto slightly regretted that he didn't give a seal to Jiraiya as well, but when Yuna and he started fighting two S-class shinobi, it shouldn't take Jiraiya too long to appear on the scene of battle as well. To Naruto's surprise, the people outside his door actually knocked on the door instead of just smashing through it. Naruto cautiously stood up and opened the door and was immediately greeted with a pair of Sharingan looking at him. Uha, that's Itachi Uchiha, and that fish face behind him should be called Kasame Hoshigaki. Somehow, I don't think they are here to have a civilized discussion. I heard fish face as a meathead. I wonder if I can get something out of this. He should be pretty easy to trick, right? Naruto's eyes visibly scanned the two people in front of him, and when he noticed that both of them were wearing the same clothes, an annoyed frown appeared on his face. I have no interest in joining your little weirdo cult that forces its members to wear matching costumes. Get lost. Without another word, Naruto slammed the door shut and then proceeded to plaster explosive tags all over it. Then he took some distance so he wouldn't get hit by the explosions. On the other side of the door, Itachi's face was still completely calm. Considering his Sharingan was already active when Naruto opened the door, Itachi easily noticed the short flash of recognition in Naruto's eyes. How interesting. He noticed who we are and apparently came up with a plan instantly. I really wonder what he wants to get by. Haha, did you really think a small door can stop me? Ah, I see. That is what he wanted to achieve. Before Itachi could stop him, Kasame charged forward and kicked a hole into the door. He probably thought of kicking the whole door open, but his kick was simply too fast and powerful, so it only punched a hole into the door. Not even half a second later, sizzling sounds could be heard from the other side of the door as a bunch of explosive tags exploded, blasting Kasame away and smashing him in the opposite wall. Itachi, meanwhile, only jumped back a little to escape the blast radius. He probably could have helped Kasame, but saw no reason to do so. It is not like a few explosive tags like that could deal any meaningful damage to Kasame. Additionally, Itachi hoped, but very much doubted, that experiencing walking into traps like that would make him more cool-headed in the future. As soon as the smoke from the explosion lifted, Itachi could see Naruto standing in the middle of the room with a smug smile on his face. You must be Itachi Uchiha, huh? You probably want a report card about your little sister's behavior. Unfortunately, I can only say that I am not impressed with her. All that hatred and angst really sabotages teamwork, you know. Itachi couldn't help but feel a little confused by what he just heard. Little sister. What the hell is he talking about? Is he trying to stall for time by rambling random stuff? You damn brat. I might not be allowed to kill you, but I can still chop off your arms and legs. Yet again, Kasame charged past Itachi, who couldn't help but ponder about what Naruto just said. The moment Kasame stepped into the room, a small seal on the ground activated and turned the friction of the ground to zero, causing Kasame's foot to slip away just when he was about to propel himself forward. For a shinobi of Kasame's caliber, riding himself after something like that happened is no problem at all. Unfortunately for him, the moment his center of balance is the worst, another seal activated and increased the gravity in the space around his head by 10 times, which resulted in his head smashing into the ground face first. Itachi, meanwhile, could no longer contain his curiosity. Who do you mean when you are talking about my little sister? Naruto's eyes widened when he heard that, but moments later he seemed to remember something he had forgotten. Oh right, you were a missing nin, so you obviously don't know about Konoha's news. After Yuna defeated Sasuke during the Chunin exam, he started walking around while transformed into a woman. Itachi frowned a little and took a deeper look at Naruto. Unlike his sister, I can, to some degree, see through him. Although he isn't telling the truth, he isn't lying either. What the hell happened to Sasuke? You bastard, die. Kasame, who was slightly dazed from smashing into the ground, had first managed to regain his bearing. His eyes were almost as red as Itachi's Sharingan as he charged Naruto like a wild beast. He managed to take a total of 2 steps before the friction under his foot was removed yet again. Just like the first time, a gravity seal activated and smashed Kasame head first into the ground. This time, however, Kasame managed to get his hand between the ground and his head before the impact, dampening the blow. Naruto, however, decided to use this chance to attack. Although Kasame obviously wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, Naruto didn't believe he would fall for the same trick a third time. His whole body was instantly coated in red chakra and he appeared in front of Kasame. He would have liked to activate his wind armor, but that would have taken too much time, so he simply smashed his fist down on the back of Kasame's head with all his strength. Unfortunately, Itachi got out of his contemplation far faster than Naruto expected and managed to deviate Naruto's blow by kicking against his hand from the side. Although Itachi didn't show anything on his face, he was quite surprised by Naruto's decisive strike. If he wasn't here, then this might have actually been quite the dangerous situation for Kasame. Naruto clicked his tongue in annoyance and quickly took some distance from the duo. He hoped he could keep Itachi distracted by talking about Sasuke and at least deal some serious damage before things got too ugly, but he underestimated Itachi's reflexes. This time, when Kasame stood up, he didn't charge at Naruto. He at least realized that the situation just now might have ended badly for him. Since the previous attacks pretty much dealt no damage to him, he didn't bother reigning in his anger, but now that he realized that his opponent could actually harm him, he would pay more attention and not blindly charge forward. Naruto gritted his teeth and prepared himself for quite the harsh battle, but to his surprise, someone else appeared on the battlefield. Itachi Uchiha. A hate-filled roar echoed out of the corridor. Everyone turned around to look at the owner of the voice, and when Itachi saw who it was, his mind actually froze for a moment before it went into overdrive to understand the situation. Is that Sasuke? He really is transformed into a woman. Why? What is going on? Is he going through a weird phase? Is it because I left him all alone? Is this some kind of rebellious phase? Should I acknowledge his transformation or ignore it? Does he prefer to be called it she? Now that I think about it, having a cute little sister is pretty nice as well. Stop thinking about nonsense, Itachi. While Itachi's brain was almost overheating, his face was still calm and collected. It has been a while, Sasuke ch. ****. Sasuke, however, didn't even notice Itachi's slip of the tongue. His Sharingan activated as he charged at Itachi just to. Today I will definitely crash ***. Lose balance while running, trip, and smash onto the ground. The center of balance between men and women is rather different, after all. Walking might still be somewhat possible, while even running might be possible, but running at full speed at someone while using chakra is a totally different matter. An awkward silence descended onto the battlefield, and moments later, Sasuke stood up and glared at Itachi even harder. Itachi wasn't certain why, but he thought that Sasuke's angry face looked rather cute while he was female. As expected, having a little sister is really nice. Itachi. Yet again, Sasuke charged at Itachi. This time, however, he had lighting chakra coating his right hand. Although Itachi was still contemplating about how he had a little sister now, he still easily caught Sasuke's wrist and stopped the attack. Foolish little sister. I currently have no interest in you. At first, Sasuke had no idea why Itachi called him little sister, but when he realized why Itachi did so, his anger exploded even further. Damn, I will defy ***boom***. Itachi unceremoniously smashed Sasuke into a wall and held him up by his neck. Your hatred for me still isn't enough. Itachi closed his right eye and moments later reopened it, showing that the pattern in his right eye had changed. Mangekyou. While his right eye was closed for a split second, a shadow approached him from his right side and pierced a sword straight through his heart the moment Itachi reopened his eyes. I am impressed that you managed to substitute yourself this quickly. Instead of piercing through Itachi, the sword was currently impaling a simple desk that was used as a substitute. Yuna, the person who was holding the sword, couldn't help but be impressed that Itachi actually managed to get away from her attack. Itachi, on the other hand, looked like he wasn't bothered by Yuna's attempt in the slightest, but he knew very well that he almost died just now. Yuna's sword actually penetrated his flesh and was very close to actually reaching his heart. I knew it, that girl shouldn't be messed with. If I wasn't extra cautious due to Jiraiya being close, I would have died just now. Rather than ninjutsu or taijutsu, isn't she specialized in assassination? This mission was doomed to failure from the start, but I don't think I can reasonably retreat before Jiraiya appears here. Tricks like that, obviously, won't work on me. It seems like you are unwilling to come with us, so we have no choice but to use force. The smirk on Yuna's face told Itachi that she didn't believe his words for even a second, but there was nothing he could do about that for now. Goal of this mission, drag this fight out until Jiraiya appears, so I can make up a reasonable argument for my retreat. I would rather not be kicked out of Akatsuki before I can gather the appropriate amount of information, after all. Somehow, I feel like this won't be easy at all.